Hello and welcome to our sustainability interview series, where we discuss circular economy, landfill, legislation, and practical tips you can apply to your business to improve sustainability. In today's episode, we speak to Axel Darut, a European and international affairs advisor in circular economy. We discussed EU targets versus reality, technology and policy shifts, procurement policies and how they can be reshaped to better support circular economy principles, and positive examples of circular innovation.
Thank you so much for the invitations. I'm really glad to be here and to be part of this webinar series. Axel Darut, so I've got a 10-year background on circular economy policy. I worked before for producer responsibility organizations on the packaging and paper value chain. And I've been part as well of foundations fighting against plastic pollution. And I've decided 1 year ago to set up my own consultancy. So working on circular economy policy design, implementation and enforcement for a wide range of stakeholders. Yes, indeed. The circularity rates of materials within the EU is quite low. The European Commission is pushing since 2015 to have like a circular economy action plan. With the first one, we had a second one back in 2020. And now the European Commission is currently consulting stakeholders in order to push for a circular economy act in order to increase the circular economy policies and as well to get like further dynamics for the markets. So what should be done? In fact, we know all of us that the impact of the product is at the design phase. So the eco-design will be quite crucial. So we need to get further and strengthen requirements in terms of eco-design to push further recyclability, recycling, reusability, and to reduce, of course, as well, the use of virgin raw materials in order to keep the competitivity within the market and to improve the eco-design as a whole. So it's part of the key priority of the European Commission and it's going to be crucial in order to push further the circular economy. Second point is, of course, to scale secondary markets. And in order to scale secondary markets, we need to get quality standards. We need to get as well certifications and guarantee on the secondary raw materials. It's going to be crucial in order to create these loops within the EU while having these requirements in terms of eco-design, in terms of combinations of getting eco-design, but being sure as well that we've got access to the secondary raw materials. As a third point, I would say, of course, we need to get infrastructure in place. And to get the infrastructure in place, it's a bit the chicken and the egg because we need to get some clarity in terms of regulations, meaning that we need to, of course, take into account already what's happened in the European Commission last mandate in terms of circular economy regulations on specific pillar and specific materials flow. But we need as well to count on the EU funds. You will get access to EU funds through different programs in order to push and accelerate circular economy efforts and to put in place infrastructures. And to put in place infrastructures, for sure, collaboration will be key. It's part of the circular economy. Competition is good for circular economy, but as well collaborations in terms of implementing infrastructures for sure. And the fourth point, in order to increase the circularity, is of course the economic signals. Economic signals will be through EPR, the extended producer responsibility. So we need to get concrete EPR principles, measures, requirements with European visions on EPR, with concrete requirements and common principle in terms of eco-modulations of EPR, to move away as well taxations from the labor towards material extractions in order to increase as well the economic incentives in terms of access to the secondary raw materials, and as well to get the right system in place, and such as, for example, get take-back system, DRS, for the consumers as well to be able to give back the waste in order to be then resources and to push forward as well reuse and so on. In terms of barriers of adoptions, of course, we've got now fragmented regulations across the EU. So we need to get a push from the European Commission himself to get, of course, a bit of simplification of the process, specifically for EPR, but as well to push further like a policy mix instruments on all the points I've just mentioned. Mixed waste sorting is part of the solutions that we need to push within the European Union in order to foster it, to accelerate circular economy policy implementations and the level of circularity of resources and materials. In order to get this into place and operationally speaking feasible. We need to get like coherency across the policies, specifically regarding emission trading system, regarding collection as well. We need to push further collections to avoid and to ban any collected and separated waste to be landfill and incinerated at some points if we want to push further mixed waste sorting, and to showcase as well, because we already have the scientific evidence regarding the resources that we save and the carbon impacts of all the waste that we pick up from the mixed waste sorting, that is beneficial for the environment and will be, of course, beneficial as well at some point for the industry. Based on this, if we've got like a clarity in terms of policies, then we need to push further as well in terms of technological and sorting infrastructures and technologies in order to accelerate these technologies in place in the sorting centers, or to implement like specific infrastructures to move forward the mixed waste sorting system. Yeah, that's a really interesting question. Like, given the fact that local authorities and municipalities will have and have a key role to play in order to implement the regulations, the Green Deal, the Clean Industrial Deal, and as well as the Circular Economy Action Plan and the Circular Economy Act that will come in the future. We know that municipalities like 70% of the responsibility in terms of the implementation phase of the regulation from the EU. So it's quite crucial. So of course, there is like a gap in terms of funds in order to support in terms of capacities, in terms of infrastructures, and municipalities. But there is as well the key role of public procurement. You're totally right. Public procurement is approximately like 15% of the GDP of the EU. So it's quite important. It's quite a nice leverage to implement for the circular economy. And in order to push further circularity within the public procurement, we've got the revision currently of the public procurement directive. So there is a key arguments and scientific evidence as well to share to the European Commissions in order to get like showcase studies, in order to get specific measures on in terms of public procurement leverage for the circular economy. From my perspective, we need for sure to get specific criteria within the public procurement directive in order to get incentives for both the municipalities and the stakeholders, the tenders, in terms of public procurements. We need to get mandatory recycled content and repairability scoring in terms of technical spectrums. We need to get as well reuse and take back clauses in terms of requiring the suppliers to offer retools, refurbishments, or manufacturing services at the contract end. And we need, of course, to get longer contracts for maintenance assets to make services model available, and to get pilot procurement frameworks and pre-commercial procurement to buy from circular SMEs. And so if you've got all these criteria together, I think it could be like a key benefits for both municipalities and stakeholders, contractors, in order to push further requirements and in order to get really the demand. So it's good to get this policy framework in order to get the supply, but we need, of course, to get the demand. And the public procurement will be a key leverage in order to accelerate and to increase the demand. Yeah, of course. You've got many good and interesting examples of, for example, deposit return system in order to accelerate the collection rate of PET bottles and cans. You've got as well, as a combination of DRS, you've got as well mixed waste sorting pilot projects, which are quite interesting as well in some areas, in order to accelerate the circularity of other waste streams. You've got as well some urban mining and construction reuse pilot projects, for example, in Belgium, which are quite interesting as well in other sectors. In terms of sports equipment, for example, as well, you've got really nice example in terms of repair workshop, repairability, incentives for the consumers to be part of the system. In terms as well of reuse, the EPR, for example, the French case with EPR is quite interesting as well. With EPR as a key role in order to push further reuse. And all these case studies are quite practical as well for the policymakers to better understand the key obstacles, the key benefits of having like other requirements at the EU level, or to get like more like a simplification of specific measures in order to accelerate these businesses. So that's quite relevant. Yeah, for sure. I would say that, first of all, Collaboration is key on circular economy, either with a competitor and with policymakers. Second, like of course, make your voice heard by the policymakers. That's super important. They need to get the evidence from the field in order to better understand the key obstacles and benefits of the circular economy. And third, I would say, like, don't forget about circular economy. It could be seen as an environmental topics, but it is as well a key industrial topics. And we need to work all together on this in order to accelerate the system and to save our resources and to straighten as well the competitivity of the EU.
To discover more about waste managed and the importance of circular economy, download our free ESG guide.